Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. I want to remind people now, for the lazy, hazy, crazy days of summer, for your beach reading, one other candidate for this, Larry Sinclair's book, Barack Obama and Larry Sinclair, Cocaine, Sex, Lies, and Murder, ? Barack Obama and Larry Sinclair, Cocaine, Sex, Lies, and Murder by Larry Sinclair. And this, of course, is the story of Obama's alleged use of crack cocaine in 1999, and even more serious, murder, the bullet-riddled body of Donald Young, the gay choir master of the Reverend Wright Church in Chicago, found on the morning of December 23rd, 2008, right before the Iowa caucus, days before the Iowa caucus, a murder in Reverend Wright's church of the guy was found in his apartment, completely, studiously ignored by the mainstream media. Every reporter in the world was standing outside Reverend Wright's church for about a week there at the height of the Reverend Wright, goddamn America, U.S. of KKKA hysteria. But somehow this murder escaped their attention. Isn't that interesting? So Larry Sinclair gives you the lowdown on that one, too. So this is an indispensable book as the events unfold, as Obama's left flank collapses, as his right flank disintegrates. You're going to see a lot of attention to the kind of thing that Phil Berg has just been talking about, and also the kind of thing that Larry Sinclair talks about. Very, very specific charges made in this book. So I urge you to get it. It's at barnesandnoble.com. Barnesandnoble.com, Larry Sinclair, Cocaine, Sex, Lies, and Murder. That's some highly interesting, riveting summer reading from Larry Sinclair. All right, so the genius approach to this would have simply been, let the Depression do its work. Let the financial panic take down the derivatives merchants. I calculated at the time that if both candidates, if the Democrat and the Republican in 2008, if they both voted for the bailout, in that case, the Democrat was likely to win. If the Democrat voted for the bailout, if the Democrat voted against the bailout, the Democrat votes against the bailout in 2008, the Democrat wins by a landslide, and the Republican Party is reduced to a 5 or 6 state regional party in the Deep South, concentrating on the typical social issues. And at that point, since if the Democrat had voted against the bailout, or spoken out, organized against it, if it had been a governor or some other kind of official, then we would have had the bankruptcy of Wall Street. These banks would have been triaged. They would have been taken under the control of the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. Their derivatives would have been shredded. And that, at this point, you wouldn't have J.P. Morgan Chase, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, the Citibank people, and Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Bank of New York Mellon. You wouldn't have them. They'd be gone. And in that general derivative shipwreck, the vast majority of insurance companies would also have gone bankrupt, because they were all in the derivatives bubble. They still are. Elizabeth Warren tells us that the vast majority of derivatives have not been liquidated or unwound. They're being kept on the books in the vain and hysterical attempt to make them worth something. Well, they are worth nothing, and they are worth less than nothing. They have negative value, like the little Abner Rasputnik back in the days of Al Cap. So that's the interesting one. Now, if the Republican had voted against the bailout and the Democrat had voted for it, the Republican would have had a fighting chance to win the election. That's the historical failure of McCain. McCain, if he'd really wanted to be president, would have voted against the bailout. But he didn't do that. He was, in some ways, trapped by Paulson, who called him back to to Washington. Suspend your campaign and come back to Washington and organize for the bailout. And poor little McCain was so flattered by his ego by that call from Wall Street that he just couldn't say no. So he ended up voting for the biggest earmark, the biggest pork barrel of all time, the bailout, the TARP, right? So interesting enough. If both Republican and Democrat vote for the bailout, the Democrat wins, most likely. If the Republican votes against it and the Democrat votes for it, the Republican has a good chance, or fighting chance, to win. If the Democrat votes for it and the Republican votes against it, the bailout probably fails. The Republican Party probably collapses. Wall Street is essentially gone. The insurance companies are gone. And now you'd be having a realistic health care debate instead of this idea, I want to keep my private health insurance. The private health insurance company is there thanks to the bailout that most of those people hate. But the fact that the Democrat, in this case Obama, the neoliberal tending towards neo-fascist, voted for it, has completely muddied the ideological waters. So therefore, we try to make this clear. Now, let's just look at some of the stuff going on here. Some of the interesting technical details. The Washington Post, Wednesday, August 19th. The path of the health care debate caught Obama by surprise. This is absolutely unbelievable. Obama's advisors acknowledged on Tuesday that they were unprepared for the fight inside the Democratic Party that has occurred over the government plan or public option. So we have a senior White House advisor. Now, who's the senior White House advisor? I would say Rambozo Emanuel is speaking here. My guess is Rambozo Emanuel says, quote, I don't understand why the left of the left has decided that this is their Waterloo. We've gotten it to the point where the health care on the left is determined by the breadth of the public option. I don't understand how this ever happened. Now, that's, I think, Rambozo. You'll remember back in 2006 when Rahm insisted that if you wanted to get money from the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, which he ran, you had to be a warmonger. You had to say, finish the job in Iraq. That was Tammy Duckworth. Remember her? In Ohio, this unfortunate paraplegic lady who was an Army veteran from Iraq, no legs, but she wanted to finish the job in Iraq. That's where Rambozo Emanuel poured in his millions. So not good. She lost. Colonel Bowman down in Florida could have used that money to gain a seat, but no, they weren't interested in that. So we've also got now the left liberals beginning to whine. For example, here Eugene Robinson. You've seen him on television, right? Washington Post. I think he got the Pulitzer Prize. Where's Mr. Transformer? So where is Obama? Why is the Obama White House on the defensive? Now, this is something you're going to hear about. You got to go back to Obama, the postmodern coup, to get the Carter background. I got about a 40-page short history of the Carter administration. That is essentially the roadmap to the future. The question is, it's going to get worse and it's going to go faster. But generally speaking, Carter did not get into this much trouble in the first summer. It was the winter of 77 to 78 and then into 78 that he began to get into serious trouble. And the question was, is he competent? Does he know what he's doing? Is he a bungler? Does he have these characters from Georgia? Now, of course, these characters from Chicago who don't know what to do. We have various scandals, right? Burt Lance during 1977. That was a big, bad moment for Carter. So this is now happening to Obama. The question was, can Carter cope? Can Barkey cope? Can Obama cope? Well, let's hope not, because we want to weaken him even further. Back in a minute.